Okay, so welcome everybody into the latest episode of Before the Crowd. Joining me here is an old friend from a few years ago, which is Alex Lleo. So, Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, good man, good. It's really glad I've been able to have you on this episode actually. So for people listening at home, Alex and I used to gig and play together, sort of all over the shop really a few years ago. And I think I was about 17 when I joined your band, and it was like my first exposure to like real gigging and clubs and the whole scene really.
That's it, yeah. I mean, like a lot of my friends, actually, it takes me a minute nowadays to kind of work out, try and remember like where I've met most of my friends. And I was trying to think where it was that I'd first met you. Was it? Were you at college? Went to college together? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was because one of the tutors there, I remember he heard me practicing and he knew you were in need of a drummer, and so he just kind of connected us. Like I think he pulled me out of a lesson one day.
Max Alexander, that's it.
Yeah,
Maxi boy. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. That's how the first connect happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I seem to remember it quite vividly. I think it was just because you guys were like a slightly older band, because you were all like 20, 21, early 20s, yeah. And I couldn't.
So old.
Well, me and my friends.
Fucking hell, I wish I was 20 again now, I tell you.
How old are you now?
I turned 27 in like 2 weeks' time. It seems to have shot past, mate, honestly. Weird.
How are you feeling about it?
Okay, I've made it to the 27 club, just about, if I get there. I've got 2 weeks to ruin that. But no, yeah, it's all right, isn't it? It's just another day.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it was, for me, when we started playing and doing all those shows together, it was such a great experience because like I was 17 and couldn't really play in any of those clubs sort of legally or without ID, which I didn't have at that time. So playing with a band who was slightly older meant I got to go into these venues.
That's it.
That I couldn't normally play in. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. I wouldn't want to embarrass you on your own podcast, but it's funny. Your name came up in conversation a few weeks back. Actually, we were talking about that one night we played a show in Birmingham when we came back to mine and we got drunk on Jack Daniels. Do you remember? And you were like, I think James like had to like help you down the hallway numerous times to find your way to the bathroom after a few many JDs.
That was I think it was like your dad's fault because he like gave me Jim Beam and I had like no idea what it was.
That was it. Yeah. He kind of got you drunk, didn't he?
I think your mum was kind of annoyed at him because she was like, oh my God, like you can't stay in our house.
Yeah. Because like you say, we were a couple of years older, so we kind of, it's easy to forget, isn't it, once you start gigging together at that age. But yeah, good times. We had some good fun, didn't we?
Are you still in touch or playing with any of the other guys in the band?
So me and James still, although we've kind of had sort of a hiatus on our little production duo of late, just because we kind of worked solidly really since around the time we'd met. So it's, and even before then, we'd been pushing on like a decade's worth of confinement in that little studio shed of ours. And I think it kind of reared its head just around the time that I was making plans to go to New York. I know James wanted to pull off into slightly different writing directions and have a bit of headspace. So we keep in touch all the time just as mates, but we haven't worked together for probably a good 6 or 7 months now. But we still do have like the garden shed, that's the famous little studio shed. We still co-own a lot of musical gear together. So we're still musical compadres, but we just haven't done anything together. But the rest of the band, they've all from the time we played together, they've all kind of moved on and done their own things. I don't know whether Kurt's still playing. The last time I saw Kurt was I've seen him briefly just for a beer since, but the last time we played together was his mum's 60th, I think it was her 60th. He dragged us up and we did like a jam band thing. That's the last time I played with Kurt. I don't think he plays that much anymore, to be honest.
Okay.
I think he stepped off into the real world and got himself a real wage. And I think Sam. Who else was in the band at that time? I don't know. We went through a few players, didn't we? I mean, like you play, obviously you drums. We had James, Kurt, bass.
I think I was exclusively with when James was on guitar and Kurt played bass.
That's it. Yeah.
I think we had. Oh no, Josh came and played.
Oh yeah,
Josh Taylor played a few gigs with us,
That's
and he
right.
played. I think he played bass for a couple, maybe when Kurt could make some shows, and then I think he just kind of played some keys.
He played some keys as well, didn't he? At the one famous gig we did at the infamous Yardbird. That's no longer with us. That the best venue in Birmingham it used to be. But
is that the Yardbird isn't there anymore?
No, it's all gone because they've redeveloped the whole of Birmingham city centre now. But yeah, it got knocked down when they kind of restructured that whole area. So yeah, it's no longer there, which is weird. But yeah, it was a great venue. I mean, it's a very famous jazz venue, wasn't it? Predominantly. Because I remember a few people being quite impressed with your kit because it's very like jazzy. That bar used to be. There's loads of, and yeah, man. God, I don't know where the time goes. It's weird thinking back on it all now. It's just like, what? It feels like yesterday once you start delving into memory banks. But
yeah, I know it's funny just talking to you and like it starts opening it up a little bit. But I guess kind of moving with the present, man. Where's your music heading at the moment, and what are you working on?
So most recently, I mean, before the big lockdown happened, I just recently returned from New York. Actually, I'd spent 5 weeks out there working with some incredible musicians based out of Brooklyn. And it's kind of it's quite a funny story how the whole thing came about, really. It was, so, there's so far sessions that float around. They're kind of worldwide now, aren't they? They're kind of, the internet's saturated with YouTube videos of good quality musicians playing stuff. But yeah, anyway, I did one of those for a London session, I think it was. And it must have just popped up on the Instagram feed. And around the same time, there's a guy in New York, a guy called Quinn Devlin, who's a great musician as well. But he'd done a video around the same time, and I think we just got hashtagged and something together. And he must have stumbled across my video like organically on Instagram, and he just reached out, showing some interest about like my music and what my plans were and stuff. And we just kind of basically started like a pen pal Instagram friendship thing that was really weird. But over the course of sort of 3 or 4 months, we started realizing that like I was in a place of kind of, I was just a bit lost musically, like creatively. I felt like everything that I'd worked up until that point, and the whole progression that I'd gone through from the years of obviously meeting you and being at college and then going to university and being like a career-driven musician, you kind of get to a point where it's really easy to get to sort of your mid-20s and think like shit, what direction am I going in? And I just totally felt like creatively at a real crossroads. Didn't really know what to do. Didn't really feel like my sound is representative of what the direction I wanted to go in. And so I was kind of expressing all of this to Quinn, and he just said, "Look, mate, I've got a bunch of really great people out here. We've run a studio together. We all chip in on rent and stuff, and we run this studio out in Brooklyn. And I'm pretty sure if I had a discussion and showed some of the demos to some of the guys, we'd be able to do a really good rate because we know you're going to travel far, and we could make it happen. You could come and sofa surf with us for a few weeks, and we'll get some ideas down, and hopefully it'll reinvigorate some inspiration." And so I started thinking about it and thought, yeah, this could be a really good opportunity, but I wasn't sure how much it was going to cost. And so then they came back with a quote, and I was like, being an indie musician, cost is always a big factor. I guess even when you're on big labels, it's still a factor, but when it's your own back pocket, it's definitely. Anyway, of course. So I looked at it and made it work, and so I think that was in May time. So being the spontaneous person I tend to be, quite impulsive, I wanted to just vet that it was all going to be legit, because obviously I'd only met this guy on the internet for a few short moments. So I I flew out for 4 days in June. I just booked a flight and flew out to see him, to see if it was like, if I was going to be catfished or not, or if it was going to be like the real deal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I flew out and everything checked out. I couldn't have landed on more of a gold mine in terms of the community and the people and the vibrance of culture and the knowledge of, the musical brains in the room it was just, yeah. And straight away within those, like, I think I was there for like, it worked out for just over 48 hours or something. I was there, and I just came back like jet lagged, but buzzing, because it was such a quick visit. I hadn't even adjusted to the time zone, but it was just like an injection of exactly the kind of thing that I needed. So I came back then and we made a pact. I said, right, I need to just work solidly as a working musician. I need like a couple of months to get the funds together. So I just rejoined. I just did everything I could to make the cash. So just, did all the function stuff, all my usual sort of things that are away from my original material, all the function gigs, corporate gigs, weddings, all that malarkey, as I'm sure you're well acquainted.
Got to pay the rent somehow.
That's it, mate. So got it together and got out there. I went out there in October and was out there for 5 weeks, just kind of living as cheaply as I could. Luckily, all the guys that were out there let me crash with them, so that was a great save on cash and a great way to get to know them all. And the little studio was called Dodge 112, which is named after the street and where it is, the number. Nice. And it's a great little studio. It's above an old, what it still is, a working pest control unit. So like you got it looks like a little Ghostbusters wagon like parked underneath, and then in the attic was this unit that they turned into a little studio. And Sahil, the main producer, he was kind of the catalyst for it all, really. He was like the Fagin of all these musicians. He just would, he just had all these great people that would gravitate towards him, and he was able, between him and Quinn, they were able to call upon a band to come and help me kind of flesh out some of these arrangements and some of these sounds. And we basically spent the first couple of weeks just getting to know each other and working it all out solidly. But to be honest, it came together really quickly, and we tracked the main body of the work all live, all in the room. So I was in a booth, and everyone was kind of because they're all jazz. Most of the guys were all jazz students at Columbia, so they're all like really just tasteful players that know how to really get a good sound in a quiet room. They're not about playing loud. It's all about dynamic and getting it sitting. So, I mean, with that, it was great because we could all communicate in the room and get a really nice vibe. And capture like a really organic, natural sound, which I feel, listening back now it's all mixed and kind of, we're just waiting for it to be mastered at the moment. But yeah, I feel really proud of it, and I feel like it was such a leap of faith to go out there. And I was really unsure whether it was even going to pay off, because it was kind of a whim. But it turned out to be one of the best things I think I've ever done. I've made some great friends out there, and I feel kind of musically re-energized.
Nice. That's cool.
So yeah, that's kind of the story. It's a bit long-winded, but
yeah. No, it's good. It's really good to hear, because I think a lot of the times when you can go to a new music scene, or even if you're just in a new city for a night and you get to meet the local bands or whatever, sometimes they're not that friendly or not that nice. They sort of see you as a threat. So it's great that you got to go to across the ocean, across the pond, as it were, and just find a really cool, like, close-knit system of musicians.
It was unreal. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Like, some places you go, you do get that vibe. There's a bit of a competition, a bit of a standoff, but honestly, Brooklyn, maybe I just hit lucky with the people that I was surrounding myself with, but every person that I met who was friends of friends or friends, and we'd go to gigs or parties or whatever, like, everyone was so accommodating. And maybe it was because I was the foreigner and they wanted to, like, be a good host or whatever, but it was just, I never got that vibe once. Everyone was so engaging and really passionate about what everyone else's projects and what they're all up to, and it was a real scene. And to be honest, like, I did feel a little bit like deflated when I came home. It took a while to get used to it again, because I kind of felt like I landed back home and I just thought, shit, like, I just got inserted into a scene, into a ready-made like vibe where everyone was kind of on this frequency together. And I kind of came home and I was like, I don't feel like I was thinking of who I could turn to like, where's my scene kind of thing? Like, where's my scene back here? And I just thought, because I've dipped in and out of so many different scenarios in the UK, like I kind of felt a little bit lonely almost. It's like a little bit like, oh, like I know there's a ton of really great people that I can rely on as friends and musicians and everything else to make things happen here, but there wasn't the same buzz that there seemed to be there. I don't know whether it's because everyone was living on top of each other, and a bit like, you know, if I'd moved, because I never made the move to London, maybe I should have done that and whatever else, but I've been spending a lot more time in Bristol because my brother's down there and there's a really great scene that I've been getting involved with there. And maybe that was my golden ticket. Like maybe I should have moved to a big city at a certain time, but I guess the moral is everyone's path is different, isn't it? Like everyone's career path is different, but it definitely took some adjustment. But then having said that, you know, I don't think it's hindered me as such, but it was a great experience to have, basically, is what I'm getting at.
No, definitely, and it's really weird, and don't ask me why this stuck with me, but I always remember you saying to me once years ago when I think I told you, I was like, oh, hey man, like I'm not going to be around to do these shows anymore because I'm going to be moving to London. I'm going to go study. And you were saying like, the only thing with London is, or any major city, is it bottlenecks. And I always remember that expression kind of stayed with me. And it's so true, because you can be like this amazing guitar player, amazing bass player in your hometown or surrounding towns, and you really stand out. But you go to a big city and there's guys who have got like 20, 30 years experience on you who can just shed all over you. Maybe it's a bit different as a singer-songwriter because you have your own sound that is very unique to you. Like no one has your voice.
True, but there is still definitely some similarities in that though. If nothing else, just the attitude, I guess. But like, you know, as the years have gone by, I've spent more time in those cities, and like just before this happened, I was in London kind of more than I'd ever been. And like, yeah, I was starting to really see the benefit of being amongst it. And if you can hold your own, you know, and you're willing to work hard, which you know, since I met you, I knew that you were one of those people that were just very driven about your instrument and very driven to make it not just a passion, but, you know, it really was your life, and it is your life now. You know, I knew that somewhere like London would be the perfect habitat for someone like you because, you know, those types of places with those types of attitudes, you can thrive because a little bit of competition is obviously always good. It's always good to be around people, and obviously you're meeting people all the time that are always trying to push themselves too. And that old saying, I forget the exact saying, but about surrounding yourself with people that are kind of almost better than you, because it really does elevate your, you know, you do become who you surround yourself with. I'm a massive believer in that. You know, and when I went out to New York, I definitely felt like the worst musician in the room. But weirdly, I loved the fact that I loved that feeling. It made me feel so weirdly empowered. Like I wanted to just learn more and like about all aspects of the process. You know, even though I'd been doing it 10 years, there was things that I just didn't know or I wasn't aware of just by looking at these guys that just live and breathe it, and musically speaking were just so intelligent and so tasteful. It just really inspired me to, and you know, so, and I came away from that feeling like, well, that's the bar now, that's the level. So like the level has now gone from I'd been in this weird state of plateauing, like not really knowing where this next stage is, and now like the threshold's been set again. So now it's like, you know, I feel like there's another bar that I need to reach, and I think that's how you get better as a musician, isn't it? Is it always
definitely
surround yourself with those people, and if you're in places like London, and you know, Bristol's another great place for it too. You know, just surround yourself with great players and just good people in general that are willing to give advice and stuff. It's only going to make you a better person and player.
Definitely, and it's absolutely. I think that rings true so much. Like I know even like a bunch of drummers who have like maybe taught me or I've kind of met along the way who have got, 20 years on me, and like you don't even play for 6 months or whatever, and then you go watch them, and I kind of stand there laughing because I'm like, you guys are so good, but you're the
Yeah,
nicest guys in the world and so modest,
yeah,
and it just makes you want to run home and practice.
definitely.
Um, One thing I was going to ask you actually as well. Let's talk about the name change.
Oh
Where
yeah,
did that come from?
the big name change.
From Alex Rainsford to Alex Lleo.
Yeah, well, um, it was kind of a weird couple of reasons. I was looking for a potential um, brand shift anyway, just because I felt like I was stepping towards just a kind of new sphere of musical being, or whatever you want to call it. And I just fancied a fresh start, really. But at the same time, I just landed a management deal in Bristol at the time, and the team that I was working with there, we'd had similar discussions to what I told you about feeling a bit sort of stale and not really knowing, and having all these ideas that were yet to come to fruition. And I kind of felt like drawing the line under the sand of some old material and kind of rebranding myself and starting again would be a really good idea. But so I was chatting backwards and forwards with my manager over the Christmas of, I think it was 2018 now. And I'd actually took some time off. I'd gone for a couple of weeks to the Canary Islands. I'd gone to Fuerteventura,
Okay.
hired like a little camper van, and drove around the island and just chilled out for a bit, and was just working on a few ideas while I was out there and trying to clear your head. And we were joking one night about, because obviously you've seen my friggin' long blonde hair when it's all down, and we were joking about this. It's a bit cringy to say actually now I'm actually thinking about it. Like people are going to hear like the really basic version of where this name came from. But there was a guy in this bar, this Spanish guy that used to call me like Alex the Lion. It was like a jokey thing. And I was talking to Matt one night, and I just texted him about this thing because we were talking about names at the time, and he knew a bit of Spanish, I think, and he was like, "Oh, that's funny." Like lions, obviously, Lleo with the double Leo, and then he sketched it up and just sent me like a text being like, look at this. It's like, it looks quite good, like with the 4 letters and the 4 letters, like being all like with his being on brand as he was with being in a management company. And I kind of sat back and looked at it, and I thought, yeah, the double L is a bit weird, but like it does look kind of cool, I guess, and like it does speak to me in some ways. I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. So we just vibed it for a while. We had loads of crazy, stupid other ideas as well. I can't remember now without looking back at some of the emails, but like there was just
some cringy ones.
Oh, it's always cringy though. And like, so we decided to just go with that because I'd recorded a load of stuff and we just needed to release. And it was getting to the point where they were putting pressure on me to really start like getting to grips with putting together a campaign and get some stuff rolling out. So I was like, fuck it, let's just go with it. So we went with it, and that was it. And it kind of stuck, and I went with it, and the rest is history, as they say. But I think when people decide to come up with aliases and stuff, I don't think it ever really, most people that I've spoken to that don't use their real names, it never really sits with them like 100%. It's always like, yeah, it fucking kind of is just a thing. And I'm kind of at that point. I'm like, yeah, people that know me know the story and know what it's about, and they know it's just it's an ident essentially, isn't it? It's a marker to show people, oh, this is where you come to listen to this type of sound or whatever. And I've made my peace with it.
No, it's fine. I was curious as if it was given to you or if you were just like, you know what, screw it, I'm doing a brand change, because
it was sort of a mixture.
Well, I kind of thought about it in the past. I was like, would I want to do a whole stage name thing? And I think maybe if you're kind of more the artist, like, it's your name on the album.
But your name sounds like a drummer's name though. Like that is the kind of name that I would see in the credits. Do you know what I mean? Like a Ginger Baker style, like a Guy Monk. It's just like it's a name that you're not gonna forget. I would never forget that name. Like it's I don't know what the word is, but it's definitely.
When I was in the States playing my before I met my MD, the day I met him, he was like, oh, okay, you were kind of what I expected. And I went, well, what do you mean? It was like, well, just judging from your name, he was like, you're either like some massive, great, big, obese gospel player or a skinny white English guy with long hair. And I was like, okay.
Nailed the second one.
Yeah, I was like, obviously I don't fall into that first category, but no, I'll take that, man. I'll take it. I guess kind of like talking about the brand and stuff, because I was reading I was stalking a bit, your Spotify bio.
Yeah.
Before the interview, and it was saying about, the connection you have with nature and kind of, that sort of, I liken it to maybe the Zach Brown band, that sort of like homegrown roots. Do you think that comes across in your music or influences your songwriting, that connection with nature?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's something that when all the marketing teams get a hold of you in music, as they like to do, it's something they always try and extract out of you, isn't it? What is your selling point? What is the thing that makes you you? And yeah, sitting down and really thinking about it, which is always an uncomfortable process, really, when you're having to like self-analyze. But I guess it does. Yeah, I mean, I'm someone that's always been very outdoorsy and just always like to try and connect myself to it in some capacity. I've always found it very grounding ever since I was a kid, just camping trips away, with my dad and stuff. It's always been a part of my life, that kind of connection to it also, I guess. And as my sound's developed, it's definitely got a foot in that rootsy sort of organic. I kind of I overuse that word a lot, but like it is, I like to kind of, it's a woody sound. It's a very real sound. It sounds like people in a room playing together. Like that's the best way I can kind of describe it. It's as much as I absolutely adore other types of music, and I play around. I go off if I'm writing and stuff. I won't let genres hold me back. I like playing around with sonics, but I just find my strong points always being, because it's the way I learned to play music as a kid. Really, I was just in a room, sitting in front of someone with a wooden instrument, usually just singing a song, and like, the old-fashioned folk technique. It was just, that's the way I learned to play. And I think as you get older, you just realize that like you play to your strengths, and I always felt like that was something that I've always felt most comfortable with. Because usually I'd be writing a song, wherever I was, it would usually be a guitar in hand, like the old cliche singer-songwriter thing. Wherever I was, just guitar and a voice, and it'd be a melody and whatever. And that's kind of how I've always started songs. So yeah, I guess there is a connection.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think just, you're hitting on that kind of cornerstone of, just like you said, the melody, the instrument, which weirdly I did I think you actually know her, Amy Weir.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So we were starting to play together a little bit in London, and then we I think, again, like going back
small
to
world, isn't it? Really is. Yeah. Everyone always says the music thing is small, but it is.
And when you do find those connections, and I don't know what it was, some gig or post or something, she went and did like a little weekend gig up in Birmingham, and I saw your name on the bill, and I was like, how do you know Alex? And my first thing was, I was like, God, you should never be a twat to anyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's
not that you were, or like, oh, hopefully I wasn't, but you think no. You never know when someone's going to crop up again.
Yeah, I know. It's always like those kind of sayings go around a lot, don't they? When like young aspiring musicians are trying to get into the game, it's always like, be punctual and don't be a dick and all this kind of shit. And it's like, yeah, it is true. But I mean, if you're already having to think about it, you're already probably a dick. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just like, do you know what I mean? Like most people I've met, I've been thankful. They're nice people, and just, if you're in it for the right reasons, you'll gravitate towards the same kind of people. I'm a big believer in that, and it's just like, it's that simple. But yeah, you are right. I mean, you got to be careful. Everyone's got a habit of being a bit of a gossip, given the chance, for a certain situation, or you work with a certain type of band. I've seen it in the function world for years. Like, you're playing wedding bands and shit, and you're playing with, as a singer of a band, which is what I've done predominantly. Mm-hmm. You're depping with different people, you can be depping with people every night. It could be a different band each night, and different drummers sat in for the guy the night before. And if the bass player's been there for a couple of nights, he'll be bitching about the last guy. And it's just, it happens. But like, the best thing you can do is just keep your mouth shut, because it's just, you never know, do you? You never know. You could have your break one day, and that drummer could come back, and he could have changed the error of his ways or whatever, and he could now be in hot demand or whatever, and something's been said along the way, or whatever the situation might, you know what I mean? It's just better to just butt out of all of that noise. I've not got time for it.
Yeah, no, it's just a negative vibe.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah.
You just have fun when you're playing music. And
exactly.
Just have a beer, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Which I don't know if I told you this, but only time, I don't know why I'm just talking about drunk stories with you. I think as well as like kind of discovering my tolerance a bit more, but because if I'm playing a gig now, I don't drink. I never drink a beer before or during. I have a couple afterwards, but I always remember playing Kurt, our bass player. I think it was like must have been like a 21st or 22nd birthday or something.
Yeah. We played a lot of birthday parties, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just getting absolutely smashed off like a pint of cider beforehand or something, and just trying to play drums and sit on the stool. And just like the whole room started spinning, and I was
honestly,
like, oh my God, what have I done?
I feel a bit bad, but like, I swear we used to kind of get you drunk a little bit, just because it was like, your like Guy Monk drunk is fucking one funny scene. It's got to be said. Like, even now thinking about it, it was funny, you know.
Yeah,
because you get there like quickly, but then you carry on. The thing is, you'd like get there quick, but then you kind of stay at a level and you just keep drinking. Like, you know, you wouldn't stop. You wouldn't be like, oh, you know, because how old, you know, like we probably were we even 18? I mean, it's quite illegal to be promoting illegal drinking, but I think you were 18, weren't you, at that point? Or you were getting there? You getting
sure.
there?
Let's say yeah.
Let's say yeah, but whatever. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, I've always liked a beer, but I'm the same as you. Like, when it comes to, I mean, that was a birthday bash, so I think the gloves are off that night. But
yeah, exactly. It's not a proper gig, is it? You know, it's just a load of mates jamming.
Yeah, but like, as a rule, you know, I'd like to pride myself in being quite professional when I need to be. So I don't tend to. I definitely don't drink if I'm being paid a decent whack to be there. You know, what's the point? It's your job, isn't it, at the end of the day? And the enjoyment comes from being on there and playing. But definitely, I've been known to enjoy a tipple afterwards.
Yeah, definitely.
Or start just towards the end of the set if I know everything's gone okay and we're getting to that point. You know, I might start sneaking a couple in.
That's the thing, and often, even if you're not getting paid a wage for the night, you're going to get given some beers, or like that's your compensation, where it's like, you know, 50, 100 quid.
Yeah.
And a few beers for the band, and so you're like, okay, well, this is my payment tonight.
Yeah.
You know what always gets me is you have the guys who, I guess, we're kind of in the same boat, but you don't drink and play, and then you get guys who are like often the guys who are in the pits in the theatre, and they're just absolutely smashed like 8 pints a night, and they're like nothing to them. They're so used to it, and they're like, yeah, I play better when I'm drunk. How do you get to that point? When like you play better drunk?
It's a slippy slip, because they must have gone through the shit stage first, surely, because no one just develops a tolerance and is just and has maintained like a good level on their chops while they get into that point. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of,
maybe I should have rolled with it a bit longer. Maybe like you guys should have like helped me get it.
Yeah.
Functioning alcoholic drummer. God, that sounds so awful, doesn't it?
Could have had one of his hats with the cans in the side, couldn't you?
Yeah, like the Homer Simpson. What are they called?
The straws. I forget the name.
But there's it once.
Yeah.
Like anyway, man. Like getting back to you a little bit now, and I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier, like having the management deal for kind of younger musicians who are starting out or trying to grow their brand. What would your advice be around that area of management deals and growing yourself?
There's a lot of snake oil around management, I think, and it's something that I've fell into the trap with until quite recently, to be honest. Like, even now, like I'm out of a deal at the moment, so I'm a free agent, so I'm not with anyone now. But yeah, I mean, when you're younger, well, when any age really, I mean, a lot of industry people will tell you the first thing you need to do is get a manager, and yeah, that's true. Like, getting a manager is really important, but what's more damaging to your career is getting the wrong one, or getting one, rushing into something because you feel like you need it, and ending, you end up wrapping yourself in with someone that maybe isn't seeing clearly the same path that you want to see with your career, and that can be more damaging than going it alone. I think nowadays a lot of people, the tools are out there. Do you know what I mean? Like there's more information out there now than there has ever been about how to construct your own campaigns and try and best publicize your own material. And I think there is the whole knowledge is power thing is so true. I think any young musician really should just first and foremost always focus on the music. I know everyone always states that, but it's so true. If you're flogging a dead horse, and unfortunately you're never going to get the interest that you need. I'm coming from a songwriter performer basis now. Obviously, for performers like yourself, if you're session players, it's slightly different. I know people end up getting agents, and but that's slightly different, isn't it? That's for getting you work on sessions, etc. But I'm coming from a slightly different angle of songwriter performer type management deals and stuff. And yeah, I mean, the best advice to me would be just read as much as you can about what it is. First, think heavily about what it is as a musician that you want to achieve, and think heavily about the sound that you're creating, and really try and paint a picture in your own mind, because there's nothing worse than trying to sell yourself to someone else, try and get them on board with your gravy train before you even know what it is that you're about. So the biggest thing is just take that time, and there's no rush. I got so much anxiety build up over the years of like going through my teens into my early 20s, feeling like everything needs to happen yesterday, and it really doesn't. It's like, if you certain areas of the industry, I imagine time is of the essence to a certain degree with pop and stuff. But I mean, even that's becoming less and less of a thing. I think I spent too long focusing on feeling like I had to rush everything, rush the process, and it's really not necessary. I think quality over quantity for sure, in terms of learning about yourself and learning about how the industry works and what you can do to arm yourself as an independent musician, because the tools are there. They really are there. So learn about how you create your own campaign, learn about how you create your own buzz, read about how the streaming industry has changed and how algorithms now are leading more, and when you get into it, when you get into the thick of all of that, it can feel a little bit disheartening because you feel like it's pulling away from the art. But if you can compartmentalize as best you can, which is still a struggle for me at times, to be honest. Like I manage my little brother's band now, and like I enjoy that because I'm not directly involved in the creative process, so I can kind of get creative on the marketing side, and I enjoy that now. Now I'm learning more about it all the time, and I'm no expert, but I'm just reading and trying to learn as best as I can, and I enjoy that process with them now. But like when you're kind of like balls deep into it, so to speak, creatively, and then you've got to then try and plug your own material, it can feel a bit demoralizing, like 100%. And I spent a long time when I did my first like release under my new name a couple of years ago. I'd worked so hard on this live release and had like video content and loads of great content to go alongside it. And I just felt like, how am I going to peddle this like independently? So I did a hit list basically of management companies and people that I thought, but I didn't just blanket email every management company that existed. I did my research into the kind of acts that I thought represented the kind of sound that I was creating and the type of people that would genuinely be interested in what I did. And I put together a private link with everything on there and a really good, detailed but concise sort of one sheet, a press pack, but just an all-in-one thing that gave anyone reading a good straight off the bat, just by looking at it, a good sense of, before they even clicked play, like what it was going to sound like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just who you are, what you're about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we spent me and the drummer at the time, Tom, that had worked on me with this Park EP. He actually worked in PR, not in music, but in a different industry. But he had a little management company on the side as well, and he was very good at teaching me a lot of things about how to make your press pack really concise. And so we made a really nice, good looking sort of EPK to start posting out, and then I made a hit list of a load of emails that I wanted to hit up, and I spent a good month or so hitting those people up. And yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people tell you to email, but the importance of the follow up is really vital as well. I mean, I spent that time kind of pitching to a few people until they gave me an answer. You know, an answer of someone telling you no is way better than just no answer at all.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, so I did all of that, and luckily there's a really great guy that's got his own little company in Bristol called Stay Loose. They're a great little independent PR and management company. And some of the bigger acts they look after are like slightly left field, like Daughter. They look after a band called Daughter and a band called Wilson and a few others, and they do PR for countless other artists. So I was in great company, and luckily he just reached out and seemed to really like the package that we'd put together and was interested in. Yeah, and then one thing led to the other, and we started working together on quite a loose basis for sort of 18 months on a few projects, and it worked really great. I mean, personally, the only issue I had with that, and which is why I'm not in the situation now, is luckily it wasn't like I had a dodgy story to tell. It was more just an unfortunate organic closure. What happened was, when I told you about me coming to this crossroads with my music, I was very much at that point. It was just an unfortunate timing. Like we'd worked really hard on a campaign for this EP to be released, and then I was at a point where musically I just felt like everything that I was creating, and again, it wasn't of any one particular person's fault, but like I'd been closely working as James, old guitarist / producer. Yeah. We've been working together for like 10 straight years. And I just think our creative juices together had kind of like dried up, to be honest. I just feel like we'd hit a brick wall, and everything that I was trying to put my effort into was just falling a bit flat. And it was such a hard pill to swallow, because I'd worked my ass off to get to this point where I had someone of real influence interested in what we were doing. I mean, he was getting me like opening shows on Communion and stuff. We were going to London. We did a headline show with the full like 6-piece band at like London St Pancras. We were doing like really good shit and getting the right type of people down to the shows.
Really getting it moving for you guys. Yeah,
and it just felt like I was being sort of represented or helped along by exactly the kind of people and exactly the kind of part of the industry that I wanted to be part of. So it couldn't have come at a worse time to feel suddenly, just dried up in a musical sense. Nothing was coming good. We were working on songs day in, day out, but it just became like a treadmill. There was nothing of substance behind it, and it didn't feel fun. It just didn't feel fun. So I did a UK tour and around. I'd just done like a Scotland and Outer Hebrides solo tour actually, and Matt came with me on a few dates, and we were just talking about stuff there. But I got the vibe. I got the vibe during that time that things just weren't ready for me. I didn't realize it was my own naivety. I didn't realize just what the next step entailed when you get that kind of interest, and it was a big learning curve for me. And I think it's something that I would pass on to anyone now, is like, kind of be careful what you wish for in that respect, because if you do get the interest of people, they expect you got to be ready to meet them. You got to be ready to meet them with that professionalism and that want, because if they're going to take the jump, they're going to take the leap and kind of invest in you, whether it be time, money, or otherwise, you've got to know that you can deliver. And if it feels like a lot of pressure, it's probably because it is. And if it's feeling like a lot of pressure, then it's probably the wrong time for you. And that's okay, I think. So coming back to my original point about learning for yourself, the best thing you can do is make all those mistakes independently first. So don't feel like because you haven't got a big label behind you, or you don't have, a PR team ready and waiting to plug all your stuff out to national radio. It doesn't matter, because every day that you go about, self-releasing and learning about the process, it makes you stronger and more resilient as a career musician, and it arms you with the tools you need to potentially never need those people. And if you do, if it does come to that point, hopefully, if you do the right things consistently, those people will eventually come knocking, and at that point, then you will have the choice of who you work with, because you won't feel you won't feel so what's the word I'm looking for? The word's gone.
But it's not pressurized, I suppose.
Not pressured. Desperate. That's the word I was looking for. God, I don't know why. I blame the bottle of Heineken on that. But yeah, you won't feel so desperate to jump at the first thing that comes along, because you're learning and you know what it takes, and so I guess that's the kind of best bit of advice that I've kind of learnt the hard way, really. So now I'm at that stage where I've got a collection of these great songs, and I'm looking strongly towards self-releasing. I'd been in talks with a couple of little indie labels in Brooklyn and things, but you just get a sense when people aren't fully committed, or they maybe want to take a chance just because they don't want to miss out. And at that stage, it's kind of like, well, I'd rather just not bother, because you want someone that literally leaps off the phone or email or whoever you're talking to. You want them to feel genuinely invested, and if they're not, then it's not the right time. And there's so much you can do. I think the biggest thing, just quickly before I ramble on too much about it all,
no, you're good, keep going, it's great,
is just people forget that just doing something great once isn't enough, particularly now when you can skip a track every 10 seconds to eternity and you'll never run out of music. Do you know what I mean? It's like we live in an age where it's consumed at an incredible rate. It's literally become like fast food. So it's not, you might have spent 10 years working on a track. I know plenty of people out there that are purists when it comes to making music, and I've agonized, I've done this album, it's took me 10 years to achieve, or whatever, a bit like that Ace Ventura moment when he's in the bunkhouse. It's like, it's all well and good, but at the end of the day, no one gives a shit. As brutal and horrible as that is, no one cares, because someone will listen to it and think, yeah, it's all right, and then they'll just skip. And that's the sad truth. Okay, over time with the right marketing campaigns, you can get to the point where hopefully your fans, the fans that you've worked on, the people that you've really worked at, the demographic that you think are really going to connect with your sound, those are the people that you're hoping over time will invest in you as an artist and as a person, and will stick with you for the longevity. And that's where you can afford then, as it grows, to be a little bit more elaborate. But when you're at the start line of your career and you're trying to just build a following, you can't afford that luxury so much of time. But what you'd have to do is, you could make the best piece of art ever, and I'm in that similar state now. I genuinely feel like I've made some of the best music in my career to date that's been yet to be released. And I know it's not going to get the traction it deserves, first off, but I know that I'm gonna pitch it and promote it and put a campaign trail behind it as if it was going to be the next biggest thing, and then consistently do that for every other song that I release for the next however long I decide to make music. It's all right, my parents have just popped back, so the dog's going crazy.
It's all good, yeah.
But the biggest thing is consistency, basically. If you can take one word away from my ramble, it's just consistency. Yeah, you've got to learn about how campaigns work and how rollout of songs works nowadays in the streaming world. and then do that consistently. Like that's the best advice I was ever given.
No, I think that's really good. It's certainly really insightful to hear that, and I really appreciate your honesty on it, because I think it's so easy, like, not to name names or anything, but when, like, I've interviewed some artists and people before, and they're kind of put in the hot seat, it's really easy to big yourself up and think, oh, people are going to listen to this or whatever. But that's why I wanted to do this podcast, just to get the reality of what it's actually like being a musician. And like you said, it's like fast food with music out there now, and this struggle that we have to go through. But I don't know if you'd agree with me, but I think we do it for ourselves as much as anyone else.
Definitely. I mean, like, I was talking to James actually on FaceTime yesterday, and he was saying he was reading some book about creative people and how if you truly feel like you're a creative person, that creative need, it's almost like a bodily function. It's like it's something that has to, if you don't have the chance to express it and get it out from within yourself, it can turn poisonous, and it can make you miserable, and it can, so for me, definitely, like, making music, because I'm not the most prolific. Like, I'll have bouts, because I enjoy other parts of the industry and stuff as well, and I'm learning about that. Like, I'll have bouts where, like, I'm not writing nearly as much as I should be, but I know it's always there. I know it's a thing that, like, when the time's right, like, I'm going to come back to it, and we're going to have a good time doing the things that we're all here to do, because it's so easy now with all this information to just totally lose track of everything but the music. Like, it really is. And God knows how many times I've done that myself. So it's just important to make sure that singular, that thread that sticks to the middle of everything you do always should just come back towards that, like the music. Because if you do, and then you do all the other things around it correctly, consistently, then why wouldn't people sit up and listen at some point? Because they will. Because if the music keeps coming out and it's a standard that just can't be questioned, then it's only a matter of time, isn't it? That's
People are going to take note. No, 100%. And I know definitely what you mean about that kind of, I don't like kind of calling myself a creative. It feels a bit weird in kind of like drummer brain world. But, like, even just for me, like, doing a podcast, it's, if you haven't got gigs going on because it's the middle of lockdown or the middle of January or whatever, you've always got something going on, and you're still able to connect and talk to people and just listen and learn about what other people are doing and what they're up to.
Definitely, mate.
It's just fun as well. And for me, it's talking to guys like you. It's nice.
Yeah, mate. Like, fair play for doing it. I mean, it's been amazing actually with this whole, like, Corona situ. It's been amazing to see how quickly people have adapted. Again, it's a testament to everyone's creativity, because they're just, like, straight out the bat within a week, like, people were, like, coming up with all these crazy, awesome ideas. And for someone like me, who's a little bit, like, although I've done quite a bit the last couple of weeks, like, I've succumbed to the virtual ways. Like, to begin with, I was just like, oh, fuck that. Like, the idea of having to, like, do live streams and shit was just like, because the quality is never like how you want it to be. Mm-hmm. And it's, I've got a decent setup here and stuff. And, like, when I do the live streams, I work hard to make them sound as good as I can, but it's never as good as you want it to be. And interacting with a screen independently without a two-way conversation is always a tricky thing to get used to. But, I was reading this book the other week about like progression and growth and stuff. And this particular book was saying, if it feels uncomfortable, it's probably a good thing, because it's obviously testing you. So I just saw, like, the negative feelings I was having towards, like, cringily talking to a camera as, like, all right, well, it's going to make me feel a little bit better. And then I did this little quarantine things, virtual tour, where I got in touch with a few venues and just asked them if I could, like, take over their Facebooks for a week and just do, like, five virtual dates on, like, across different Facebook pages for 5 days. And it was actually weird. Like, the first one, I wasn't really looking forward to it. And then by, like, the fifth, I just felt really comfortable. And, like, the songs, obviously I repeated a few songs and stuff, but and it was good, because I knew that I was on a different Facebook page every night. I could kind of get away with, like you would on a tour, you'd rehearse, you'd play the same thing the same way, and you'd kind of, you didn't worry so much that you're going to get the same crowd. And it was quite good, because by the fifth day I felt really comfortable, and an hour just pissed past. I looked at the thing and I was like, wow, I've been playing for like an hour and people were engaging, and it was fun. It was good. It was a good way of trying to communicate your talents whilst being locked in. But like you say, doing these podcasts that you've been doing and stuff, like, fair play, because it does take a bit of work. Like, people don't see all the editing and stuff that goes in and all the time, but it's a good time spent, particularly at the moment, I think.
It's pushed me to do it a bit more now in quarantine, because for me it was wherever I was in whatever part of the world or traveling to, like, you know, when you meet these people of interest or you arrange to meet up with someone, it's great to sit down face to face and do it with a microphone. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to have to really explore kind of virtual podcasts now and see what the quality turns out like. And luckily it's actually been okay with you. You just get like lags in the internet and stuff, and you're like, oh Jesus, I'm gonna have to. You're listening to it thinking, I got to do so much editing on this, and it's like, oh God, you can just see, like, you know, 1 a.m. and you're sat up there still doing it.
Nightmare.
Yeah. As we start to wind down now, I just kind of wanted to ask you just a couple of light-hearted questions as well. So,
yeah,
if you were gonna do a show, not a virtual show, a real show, like with a live audience, with any musician, alive or dead, who would it be?
Well, that's a good question, actually. Damn.
I'll do some filler as you think about it, just because it was because I wanted to talk about maybe where you come from your musical influences and what drew you into being a singer-songwriter, and who you would want to collaborate with, whether it's some modern day pop star or someone like, maybe the guys from Zeppelin or whoever, Louis Armstrong. I don't know.
That's a good question, man. Do you just want the one answer, live or dead?
You can give it whatever form you want. If you've got a few or some variations, go for it.
Yeah, man. I guess from a songwriter point of view, I don't know. Oh God, it's a tough one. Probably have to be a Beatle, wouldn't it? Really, like, maybe John and Paul in the same room would be pretty cool, just to really see, because there's so much information out there, isn't there, about like, oh, they did it this way or they did it that way. But I really don't think it was as scientific as everyone thinks. I just think they just had a chemistry, and I would love to have been a fly on the wall to have sampled what that chemistry must have been like.
Just to watch it, yeah.
Yeah, just truly watch it unfold, and then, sample that energy and try and copy it.
I think unless it's coming from someone like Ringo or George, any of these sources, I feel like sometimes they're just doing it to sell books, aren't they?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Although those guys were awesome in their own right, but yeah, I think that, or maybe like Jimmy Webb, who's famous as a songwriter, who wrote a lot of songs for people like Glenn Campbell and worked with Brian Wilson and all those types of guys, and often doesn't get the recognition he deserves as a songwriter. I think it'd be cool to sit down with him for a day and have a masterclass on how to write a damn good heartfelt song. And then modern day, maybe like a guy that I'm really into at the moment, called Leif Vollerbeck. He's like a Canadian artist. And he's just a poet. He's just an absolute poet with his words, obviously, and his music. That kind of the marriage between the music and the lyrics, how he fits it all in, is just masterful, I think. So yeah, those are probably my hit list of people.
Amazing, thanks, man. I feel like you and I was like, is Alex going to say a Beatle here? Because like there's so much you can explore with that, and I think there's whether like a lot of us realize it or not, I think it's such a big influence.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to, when you first asked me, I thought I'm going to try and be cool and say something like just wild and out there. But like, I know there's a shit ton of people, and the Beatles are so well documented, it almost becomes cliche to mention them. But like, it's like yesterday, Dad had some stuff on. We're talking about Paul, and he just like, geez, like, he literally is a song machine. Like, it's just nuts to think the quality that he's just produced over the years. And like, yeah, I definitely think we should start a petition for like the day will come, obviously, that he's sadly no longer with us, and the day he dies, it should just be a national holiday, shouldn't it?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Whatever day it happens, we should have a 5-minute silence where at the end of it we just play Beatles records back to back, and then there should just be like a national holiday for at least a day or two.
National Beatles Day.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's just like one of our treasures, isn't he? One of Britain's best. It's just ridiculous when you look back to the catalogue. I remember I saw him play. He's played the Symphony Hall in Birmingham, and me and Josh, his dad, very kindly bought me a ticket to go with them to watch, and I just couldn't believe, like, he had no support act on, and all the music in the all the piped music coming out prior to them stepping out was like all old tunes that he'd either been involved in, whether it been Wings or whatever, or old. And it's just like, Jesus, the amount of the caliber of the back catalogue of this guy is just next level. And then he played for like 2.5 hours without a single break at like 70 odd years of age. And it was just incredible. Yeah. It was a real history lesson.
It's great. It's great to appreciate the acts that, it's that longevity, and they've stood the test of time. Like you said, he's in his 70s and doing longer sets than most people do now.
This is the sad reality of I don't know where we're going with all of this technology. And my hope is that it'll go, as most things do when you're trying to, it's like gated reverb in the 80s. Like everyone went mad for it because it was like new. But like it'll have to go extreme and crazy before it,
we rein it back.
Yeah, we rein it back a bit. So I'm hoping that it does at some point, because those types of people, we might not, I don't feel like we'll ever see another like Paul McCartney again at this stage, like with the way music is consumed and stuff. And that's without sounding too purist and too like music elitist towards the way things are going. Like I'm definitely on board with how the industry's changed, and that's cool. Like it, there's lots of cool benefits to that, but just I do feel like we lose something as well, don't we, with all of this? And I don't quite know where it's going yet, but I'm hoping it kind of finds a middle ground somewhere. But
it just resolves itself to whatever it becomes. And maybe this whole COVID-19 lockdown, it's changed everyone's lives. Maybe that's going to spurn something new for the whole industry.
I hope so. Perspective has definitely been a word that's been uttered in this household over the last few weeks. It definitely does make everything other than health and your family, really, it's just confetti, isn't it? It's just nice, so it's just a nice way to look at things, and everything's, without sounding too Buddhist, it's kind of, everything's just that nice little bit of, if you get a record deal, great. If you don't, you still make music, you still release stuff. There's no set path to anything. You just got to try and enjoy the journey, haven't you?
Definitely. It's pursuing happiness, isn't it? Rather than what we perceive to be recognition or credibility, I think.
That's it. Happiness is just, it's a false pretense anyway. Like happiness is actually, it's an impossibility to achieve that all of the time in your life. And everyone strives for something that's just attainable. When really it's deeper than that. The whole life itself is like getting too woo woo. It's all like yin and yang. It's got to ebb and flow, so things aren't always going to go your way, but it's like, it's how you deal with it, isn't it?
100%. I think you have to have the lows to appreciate the highs.
For sure.
In all of it. I feel like we could go down like a whole
whole
separate thing now.
I feel like we're getting on a Joe Rogan podcast now. I feel like rolling up a joint and
yeah,
man. So that
4 hours later.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, what I definitely want to do with you is when all of this madness is over and your music is released and out there, let's get you back on the show, and maybe
thanks, man.
We can play through some tracks and you can give us some commentary on like the songwriting process, what you thought about it, and take us through the record.
That'd be great.
As the songwriter, that'd be great. But man, thank you so much for being a guest. It's been great to catch up with you.
Thank you so much, man. Where's this going to be aired? Is it YouTube?
I go YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But I'll send you the link once it's all up and running.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Alex. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Really nice to hear from you, man. Let's not leave it however long it's been. It's
fantastic. Let's keep it going.
All right, man. Take care.